everybody, it's Taz. I wanted to get back in front of you today with a bit of an update on my son. But first, I am going to be traveling over to a park nearby. It's called Freedom Park. And this is where I have been spending a lot of time, just sort of, get away and have some thoughts to myself, or to, I run almost every single day. I run 2 to 3 miles, and that's been a great meditation for me. It's been priceless, actually. I know so many of you have been praying and asking me to take care of myself and that kind of thing. And this is one of the ways that I've been taking care of myself, and that is continuing my exercise routine and staying as fit as I can through this process. So I'm going to head over to this little park. It's real cute, and it has a little running track over there that I like to use. I did actually join Planet Fitness down here because I normally do some strength training 2 or 3 days a week, and my equipment is at my house. So while I'm down here, I thought it would be fun to do that. And when I go over there, it's usually around 5 or 5:30 in the morning, and I stay for about an hour. But my son is still sleeping right then, and I take my cell phone. He's at the point now where if he had an emergency, he could make a call, or he could get out of the house if needed. So I'm going to pull in here at an angle that I can get some light in the car. There's a lot of trees and things around. It's just a really beautiful area. Here, I'll flip this around so you can see. So again, everybody, I just want to thank you so much for all of the positive thoughts, all of the prayers, all of the offers of help, all of the support and the comforting words. It has meant so much to me. You have no idea. I'll never be able to express in words just how much this has meant to me. And I mention quite often, and it's absolutely the truth, and that is that I feel those prayers and thoughts working. I feel a sense of peace and comfort that I'm not alone. Like I'm just getting a constant hug from God, from the universe, from all of you. It feels very comforting. So I appreciate all of that, and I would ask that you continue your prayers for my young man. We had a follow-up with a local neurologist on Thursday, and so here's what's going on. The test was looking for what they call oligoclonal bands, and these proteins or oligoclonal bands are present in the cerebral spinal fluid of 70%, so they say, of people diagnosed with MS, or those eventually going to be diagnosed with MS. My son's test was negative. They did not pick up any oligoclonal bands in the cerebral spinal fluid. But because that's just a small part of how they diagnose MS, they really don't need the support of a positive test to be able to diagnose it. According to the McDonald criteria, the number of lesions and episodes that he has had is enough for them to make a diagnosis. However, they want to have an abundance of caution. They don't want to just start him on medicines without having a little more evidence that this is the disease he's dealing with. There's no specific test for MS, and so it's often a diagnosis of exclusion by ruling out things. So they're going to rescan his brain in 3 months. If there's any new lesions in that scan, or if he displays any episodes or flares from now until then, they're going to go ahead and make the diagnosis of MS. Now there are a lot of other demyelinating diseases that can mimic MS, and even some other benign types of conditions that can mimic MS. Now they've ruled out a lot of them. A lot of you have said, has he been tested for Lyme's disease? That was a part of all the testing that they did was for Lyme's, and that was negative. I understand there's a couple different tests that you can use for that, and there's a high rate of false negatives. I don't know at this point. I have to go by the data that's been given to us. They feel pretty confident that it's not Lyme's disease. There are other things too. They've ruled out a malignancy, either a primary tumor that's originated in the brain or some sort of metastasis. They've ruled that out. They did a lot of blood work, and none of the markers are there. There's no sarcoidosis. There's no lymphoma. All right, so these are all big, huge blessings. They've ruled out infection. They've ruled out a viral infection. They've ruled out bacterial and fungal infection. So that's kind of off of the table as a potential diagnosis as well. And the meds that they use for MS can have some pretty scary side effects. They're dealing with the immune system. They're acting on the immune system, which can open him up to a host of other things. I know that there's some interferon, there's a chemotherapy regimen that they can use, but before they know what they're dealing with, they just don't want to rush into the diagnosis. Now, I think my son was really hanging his hat on the fact that this was MS and that he was going to get a positive result. And so it kind of threw him into a little bit of a tailspin here when this negative result popped up for the oligoclonal bands. But the doctor said they're still pretty sure it's MS, but can't be diagnosed. So that's very disheartening for him, because he wants to know what this is. He wants to know what's going on. He wants to get into a treatment. And I completely understand that. The other thing is that his career is hanging in the balance. A diagnosis of MS will get him disqualified from the Air Force. He'll be discharged from the Air Force on medical. And so that leaves him in a bit of limbo, because he knows that if it's diagnosed eventually that he'll be discharged, and he'd rather just kind of get on with his life at this point. Figure out what it is, start treatment if he's going to be discharged, to get out and start his new life. But yet he's kind of in this trapped in this holding pattern. But they'll be rescanning here in December, so 3 more months, and then they'll go from there. I'm learning that a lot of people don't get diagnosed with MS like immediately, that sometimes it takes quite a long time. His symptoms have been very mild in comparison to someone that is hit with a huge multifocal event that's pretty obvious of what it is. I mean, he's had some numbness and tingling in his hands and his face and his head and his neck. But that's it. He hasn't had any gait issues. But MS presents itself in many different ways. And so we're learning that each individual case of MS is completely different. So we have to rely on the data and the doctor's feeling on that. Now, he still has double vision, and it's been over a month since the accident. The neurologists are kind of divided on this issue. Some neurologists say that because that demyelination lesion is located in the part of the brain that affects the vision, that it could be, this double vision might be because of the MS. And then yet others say, look, this guy has a moderate traumatic brain injury. He was unconscious for 2 hours. When he had the accident, he was unconscious for 2 hours, and the damage was, there was moderate damage. And so when that happens, it can affect your vision too. Double vision because of a TBI is not unheard of, and it takes quite a long time for it to heal. So it's going to take us time to kind of unravel the symptoms that he's having. Is it because of the accident, or is it because of MS? And it's just going to take time to separate things and to be able to figure it all out. He's not patient. I'm not patient either. I want to see him be able to get on with whatever this is. But while there's a negative result for the oligoclonal bands, there's still hope. There's still hope that this is not MS, which is a lifelong debilitating disease, as so many of you out there know. There's a lot of hope in terms of medicine and treatment, but it's still something that he's going to live with the rest of his life. And for a 25-year-old, that's a heavy load. Now, if for some reason these lesions in the brain are a result of the trauma, you know, the neurologists don't think so, based on the spacing of, or the size of the lesions, based on their shape. They think it's MS. They don't think that it's because of the accident, but it might just be a really strange presentation of injury, brain injury. And if that's the case, then that will be revealed when he goes in for a scan again. If there's no new lesions, then there's a good chance that it's not MS. So you see where the dilemma is, and it's just going to take time, and that's definitely not easy. Now, he is recovering nicely from his injuries. He'll start physical therapy on the knee and the hip on the 30th of September. So we've already got that settled, that he's got an appointment starting that day, and he'll be taking physical therapy on that. They're referring us to a neuro-ophthalmologist in Jacksonville, which is a few hours away from here. But because of the hurricane last week, they weren't able to get us scheduled yet. So we're anticipating that. What else? There's really not much else. It's just a matter of getting healed up from that accident. And so this will give him a chance just to kind of chill out, focus on recovering from his injuries, and going from there. And I mean, this is the advice that I give him, but a 25-year-old boy is, he doesn't like to take advice. You know, this is, he's used to being able to control his circumstances. And this is, you know, we know how that feels. And when you're dealt with a health issue that you didn't ask for, you didn't expect, it's very hard. Now, I have done a lot of research on MS. I'm not an expert by any means, and I'll just continue to learn. But I know that sometimes it can be treated with diet and exercise and just general, your overall health profile. And I've heard from many of you of different doctors and things that are offering books and education on how to use diet to cure MS and so forth. Now, my son is 25 years old. He's a red-blooded 25-year-old bachelor male, and he's in with his bros. His bros are family to him, and they're just a big alpha pack, you know. They eat red meat. They go out for fast food at lunchtime. They work out. You know, he works out. He's a pretty buff guy. But his diet probably isn't the best. And they're all about meat, this big macho meat, you know. So I'm slowly working on him about this. A complete vegetarian lifestyle, I think, would be ideal for his circumstances. And even if it isn't MS, there's inflammation there. And inflammation can be dealt with through diet. I know this. Not only maybe cutting out carbs, but also maybe going with a full vegetarian lifestyle, but also an intermittent fasting kind of a routine. Now, I've done that for years and years, and it works very well for me, especially, I would say I've been doing intermittent fasting for about 6 years. And it's just a lifestyle for me now. There's nothing rigid about it, but it gives the body a chance to kind of clean up after all the metabolic activity of eating and so forth. And I think that would be very helpful for him too. But each time I talk about this subject, he really just clams up. This is something that he is going to have to decide to do on his own. Mom can't make him do any of this. I can put the information in front of him, and I can give him loving encouragement, but I cannot make him change his lifestyle. This is going to have to be his decision. So many of you have said, well, put him on this diet or put him on that diet. And while I appreciate that so much, it actually makes me feel bad because I can't save my son. If he was 10 years old, I'd slap him on that diet so fast, it would make his head spin. But he's 25. And if I push too hard, there'll just be resentment. So in terms of nutrition and diet, he's going to have to come to this on his own. And I've been researching a lot of supplements as well. You know, his diet isn't the best, obviously, and he's missing a lot of key nutrients in his diet. So I've purchased, and some friends and family have sent some supplements, and I think I'm up to 4 or 5 vitamins that he's taking every day, and he hates it, just hates it. I don't understand. He doesn't like swallowing pills. I mean, he can swallow pills, he's not afraid of it, but it's just a nuisance to him. And so this is something he's going to have to get used to. And yesterday I made him a meal. Most of these supplements are good to take with meal, and so I brought out a handful of these pills and asked him to take those with the meal, and they were still sitting there after the meal, and I'm like, don't forget to take those. He just thought that was the worst thing. And then I asked him if he was still hungry. He says, no, I took that. He says, I filled up on vitamins. So, you know, for me, I take 4 or 5 supplements every single day, and it's no big deal. But I'm going to call him a kid because, you know, he's still a young adult with very little life experience other than, you know, his career and so forth. He's just very, very naive. And so it's going to take time and patience to ease him into a lifestyle of health and wellness. And that's not, you know, a big ship like that turns very slowly. And so to have patience, but just to be loving and supportive, yet tenacious about this. I'm going to have my work cut out for me in that way. You know, as a mom, you just be willing to go through fire for your child. But it takes a toll. You know, I'm away from home. I miss my husband. I have not been away from my husband more than 2 days for the last 20 some years. And now, you know, I'm living apart from him because he has to be up in Ohio to work. He's maintaining that household up there. I'm maintaining this household down here. You do what you have to do, and I definitely have no regrets about it. But there is a yearning to kind of get back to a normal life, you know, a routine that I'm comfortable with. And my children will always come first in my life, but at this stage of my life, when they're grown, I have less and less influence over them. And that's nature's way. That's nature's way of having them grow and be independent and moving into adulthood. And I need to be able to let go and back off where it's needed. This accident has taught me that, because I just want to jump in and do everything like he's 12 years old again. And he gets a little irritable when I do that. So I allow him to do as much as he can do. I encourage him to do as much as he can do. And I try not to interject my opinions on him a whole lot. He's a smart guy, and I think he'll figure this out. But once again, thank you, everybody. I love you all. Blessings to everyone.